Genesis 18:1. And Ixabier appeared to him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself before the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let the little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on. For therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, Do so as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the herd. And Abraham ran to the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it to a young man, and he hasted to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said to him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. And Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after that manner of woman. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And Ixabier said to Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Is anything too hard for Ixabier? At the time appointed I will return to thee according to thee, the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, nor she was afraid, for she was afraid, and said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence, and looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Ixabier said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Ixabier, to do justice and judgment, that Ixabier may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And Ixabier said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because the sin is very grievous, I will go down now, see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it which is come to me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before Ixabier. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein, that be far from thee to do after this manner? To slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that it be far from thee? Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And Ixabier said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within this city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak to Ixabier, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city, the lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spoke to him yet again and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said to him, O let not Xavier be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak to the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but once more. Peradventure then 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And Xavier went his way. And soon as he had left communion with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 19 and 1 going forward. And there came the angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lord, turn in, I pray you, to your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in to him, and entered to his house. And he made them a feast, and did break unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house around, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called to Lot, and said to him, Where are the men which came to thee this night? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door to them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters, which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out to you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only to these men do nothing. For therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, Hast thou here any besides, son-in-law, any sons, any daughters, and whatsoever, who hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of Xavier, and Xavier has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake to his son-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for Xavier will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked to his son-in-laws. And then the morning arose. Then the angels hasted Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon his hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, Xavier being merciful to him. And they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither say thou in all the plain, Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said to them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed to me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold, now the city is near to flee to, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. It is not a little one, and my soul shall live.